Well, it looks like things are heating up in Europe a little bit. With Cyprus, originally they were going to do 9.9% over 100,000 euros. Then, obviously the Russians came down and got their money out of there, or whatever the hell they did. It's safe because the billionaires got down there and they just went ahead and, got their money out, right? So now they're not talking about 9.9% over 100,000 euros. They're talking about 25% and 30%, and they're up. So, just to err on the side of caution, probably should pull a little money out of banks. Be the early birds, because if you just got cash sitting around, you're not getting any interest on it anyway. So what the hell's the incentive of keeping it in the bank anyway? But I don't think this is going to hit the American shores that fast or anything, but who the hell knows? I think it was back in September 2008. Actually, he's the head of a brokerage firm, and he was supposedly giving me some kind of inside information. He was telling me that they almost had a collapse in a money market system, and it was right down in the wire. They had to inject money. He was telling me stuff. Actually, a lot of times things almost happen. But nothing's like news or an historical event until something happens. It's almost like, make the comparison. You're driving down the road. You almost got in an accident. But there's a lot of times that almost happens, or maybe not a lot of times, but that happens sometimes. But you only remember the time that it happened. But is it real that it could have happened and it was close? Yeah. So it's not like total drama. But my common sense, and just anybody's common sense, would say this. If they went from 9.9%, now they're proposing 25%, 30% of over 100,000. Wow. And if they actually take that money, and the other thing is, there's articles coming out about taking minor amounts of deposits from depositors of money in Spain, and actually Nigel Farage, the guy in the UK, he always criticizes the euro, and he's real critical of the euro, and a lot of people who live in Europe are critical of the euro. I mean, it's true, right? So it's the banker's currency, I guess, the elitist in Europe's currency. But Nigel is saying to get money, if you have any money in Spanish bank accounts, get it out now. Now, other things I've been reading, some of them are like not good information, but then it's confirmed in other ways. Because I'll read some of these articles, but basically this one was going on saying a website claims to have seen an urgent bulletin from the Russian Foreign Ministry sent to its embassies all over the world, advising both Russian citizens and companies to begin divesting their assets from Western banking and financial institutions, to start taking their money out. In other words, don't jump and do it in pieces. But then again, I seen the article someplace else, and it was published in a German online publication, and stating the same thing. So the Russian Foreign Ministry is telling people in their embassies to start taking their money out of Western financial institutions. Now, just start putting little pieces together, man. It's just like, I know everybody's been talking about silver and gold for like a gazillion years. It ain't been doing squat, right? Ain't been doing nothing, okay? It's just sitting up there going from 28 to 30 something and down and up and down. But, there's a reason for it. Because this stuff with the banks, it's like the early warning sign of what's going to happen. And, just putting a couple things together, we could have like, say, 2017, 2018, and say about 2017 is going to be the height of the commodities. I'd say silver at that time is going to be 150 to 200 around that time, maybe more. Obviously, there are people that believe that. Chinese are one of them, too. See, Chinese are buying gold and silver behind the scenes, but they're trying not to buy it on the open market as much as possible because they want to keep that price nice and low. So another place they're investing in is in the miners. But you see, they have a financial interest in keeping everything low, because when it craps and everything goes to hell, they want everything bought up as cheap as possible. So actually, though, the Chinese even have an incentive to pump up the dollar because, the suckers are going to be left holding the bag. They're actually getting the gold and silver. So that's what's going. I'm not playing cheerleader here, but giving you a freaking common sense scoop. That's exactly what they're doing. They actually want the price low. So you're not going to see the gold and silver just jump up on this type of news about price. Cyprus having problems and possible bank runs coming up someday in Europe and stuff. But you can see its writings on the wall because the next step after Cyprus is going to do this maybe in other countries, and people just aren't going to keep their money in banks. It doesn't require most of the people taking out most of the money. It only requires some of the people taking out some of the money. But I almost think this is all by design because as soon as this happened with Cyprus, and who the hell's trying to push this? Because they know everybody in Cyprus was going to say no, in other words, the people that voted on, nobody voted for it. So it's like a big headline. In other words, they made a big headline. Then you got somebody in Germany talking about doing this to Spanish and Italian banks, and you got other articles printed in France about, Spanish banks possibly putting this tax, and you got remarks by Nigel. It's almost like they're creating a calamity. But if you want to be the early bird, I'd suggest, well, for one, not to necessarily take your money out, but be careful about where you have your money because actually I can tell you right now, one of the safer bets a lot of times is a credit union versus a bank, a larger credit union. And you can actually look up the troubled asset ratio. I'll post a link on the bottom, but don't even go by that because troubled assets can change real fast. In other words, they might not be troubled assets now, but a few months from now they could be. So you really can't go by all the statistics and ratios. But the troubled asset ratio is a good indication how solid a bank is. But if there's a problem across the board and they're telling you, you can't take out money that fast, then, there's a problem. So I think this type of stuff is going to start driving up gold and silver. Now, something else, I was saying before, I think gold and silver is probably going to hit the height around 2017, maybe 2018, but I'd say 2017. That's theoretically the correct year, for the commodity run and all that type of stuff and a couple other waves, the way it goes every few years. Actually, toward the end of this year and maybe 2014 should be another height too, just theoretically. Obviously, the thing actually I've been saying all along that can actually drive up silver pretty hard, real fast, is tensions in the Middle East, war with Iran, which is maybe coming up. I don't know. But if you're looking at some of the fib points, it's probably about 70, 75 for silver's the next major. That would be a major fib point. And I think another one like a 105. So I think that we're going to hit that couple of those numbers way before 2017, and then maybe in 2017 it's going to be 150 to 200 or maybe a little bit more. I know people like other people out there are probably going to be telling you like when it starts breaking 100 it's going to go to 1,000. I don't know. I mean, anything's possible in the roulette wheel, but you'd be foolish not to sell some of it in pieces. If you got gains, you take. And you got to look at. David Morgan probably is the only guy that's really big and Mike Maloney are the only ones I think that talk a lot of sense with silver because a lot of these other people, man, I was like, man, they're so off the wall, it's ridiculous. But like David Morgan will tell you, you got to look at, how many ounces of silver it takes to buy a suit, or how many ounces of silver it takes to buy a house, or how many ounces of silver it takes to buy a car. If you see it takes a lot less ounces to do that, then you should try unloading some silver. Don't keep it forever. But, I notice people, greed can screw you up. If you got a bunch of magicians out there, if say it goes well, if it starts going up over 50, 60, it will. It will. I ain't worried about that. But they're going to be screaming about 100, 200. And, the greed screws people up because they hold on too long. Now, you could be selling too short, but you know what? As long as you're making the next correct move, that could be going up too. So that's important to consider. So, the Cyprus deal, I'm going to tell you right now, it's kind of like it looks like it's a little more contrived, and it's news driven. There's all kinds of people talking about doing this with depositors' money in Italy and Spain. I don't know. And then they got this publication from the Russian Foreign Ministry or something that tells all the embassies to start taking your money out and stuff like that. And Russian companies start taking your money out. Now, they definitely want a bank run in the Middle East because the Russian Foreign Ministry would love to see the U.S. collapse, But it could help to start things rolling that way. So, I'd advise people, if you don't have silver and gold now, you're going to get screwed later on. But later on, when you start seeing some crazy gains, start selling it. And I'm going to say, be cautious about it, because I'm actually starting thinking about, I don't know, I might pay bills even further ahead. I mean, I always do. I'm pretty conservative. I'm pretty well set in a lot of different ways. A lot of people will be very envious of me, but I'm not trusting banks as much, to tell you the truth. I'm not either. So this could be the beginning of a serious bank run. Could be. And, if you look back in history at this date, you might say, well, this is where it started. So, I don't know. But you know how this works. You don't need everybody to pull out most of the money. You only need some of the people to pull out a decent amount to screw things up really bad. And that's what might happen. And then they're going to get scared, and they're probably going to say, where do I put my money? And they'll say gold and silver, and you might see that go up. This is how it's going to play out. And actually, this is just starting right now. So hang on. And it looks like Cyprus, they're talking about taking 30% now. So I don't know. I don't like being too outlandish and conspiratorial about the Earth's going to, blow up and the sky's going to fall. But somehow this smells like something going to happen here. So if you got a lot of money in the bank, start moving it around at different banks and, spread your risk. That's all I got to say.